friends, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. Thank you for joining me today. I am making a card for the Make the Cards challenge, and this week's challenge is an old-fashioned challenge, and there's a whole list of things you can choose from, and you can use as many as you like. I'm going to do cardstock layers, and I pulled out a couple of stamp sets from the Colorado Craft Company and this gorgeous Garden Vine stamp set from the Crafter's Workshop, and I am going to play with these two things today because I also have some really great paper glazes from Picket Fence I bought in some pretty colors, and I am just dying to use them. I also treated myself to a new trimmer today. When I had to run to the doctor's, of course I stopped in the craft store and purchased a new trimmer. So I cut down a piece of white cardstock at 8 by 8.5 inches. I scored it at 4 inches. Excuse me. I just used the piece that was left over here, which I think is about 3, and I'm going to cut it down an inch lengthwise so that the card front will be 8 by 4. So this will be 3 by 7. So actually be 4 by 8.5. This will be 3 by 7.5. So I just cut off 1 inch. So I'm pulling out some washi tape, which is very sticky washi tape. And it's just this old stuff I had in my stash. It's probably not the wisest choice because it is so sticky, but I'm just taping it on the back of the paper to the back of the stencil. And then I'm going to add some down along the side to cover up the pieces of the stencil that aren't on top of the paper. I'm trying not to get it over the paper, just trying to kind of go down the side. And I'm going to mask off the parts of the stencil that I don't want to fill in with some little mini post-it notes. Like, this is an easy way to do it. So this is called a leaf green color, and it's really an interesting green color. I don't consider this leaf green, but it's very pretty. And I'm just going to put a little bit of this on and fill in most of it, but I'm not going to fill in all of it because I have 2 other colors I want to add to it. I don't want this to be just one color. Lately I feel like mixing colors of things a lot. Now ordinarily I would use a white paste and add color to it myself, but I attended a virtual event and got a really good coupon for Picket Fence, and I've just been dying to try out their paper glazes. So I purchased it in a few colors that I love. And this particular color is one of those like wowzer colors. It's like a blue-green. They call it Jade Vine. It looks like a teal color. So I'm adding that to some of the vines that I didn't cover with the leaf green. And I'm wiping off my spatula in between because I want to add a 3rd color. I want to add this golden rose color. And I think this is such a pretty color. I've used this in a couple of videos with different projects recently, but it's so pretty. And I'm just kind of skimming over the top of what I've already done just to add a little bit of that gold to it, because that metallic sheen is just fantastic. All of these different colors seem to have a really nice sheen to them, and I love the way they look when you're all done. Now remember, whenever you use glazes or pastes or any of these things that they have, you definitely want to immediately clean off your stencil. So I don't have a sink right next to me, so I am being lazy and I'm going to clean this off with baby wipes. And I'm just going to remove it very carefully. And one thing I did notice about this is that when I peeled this up, it actually took some paper with it. So I put the panel that I added the paper glaze to aside and pulled out this sweet bear image from the Happy Day stamp set from Colorado Craft Company. And I really am loving these Anita Jerem stamps. I love the style of them. And I decided that I inked that up with my Catherine Pooler Midnight Black ink. That's a great ink if you want to do watercoloring techniques, because I didn't really wait at all before I went ahead and pulled out. I'm using my Zig Real brush markers because I have them and I don't use them enough. And I feel like I need to practice more techniques with these. So I pulled out a clear block, and I like to put a little bit of the ink on a clear block so that when I have my water brush, and I don't usually use a water brush anymore either, and this is a very old water brush, so it's just leaking water as I do this. So I'm getting way too much water. Ordinarily, I'll take a regular paintbrush and just use that, like, and dip it in water as I go along. I get much better results that way. I think it's time I just need to purchase a new water brush too. You know, every now and then you have to retire your supplies of something, and you have to retire a tool and get a new one. So I pulled out just a bunch of different browns, light browns and dark browns, and I'm sort of filling in quite a bit of this with the light browns. I just want to get a variation in color, so I was, kind of playing with the lighter colors first to see if I could get it to look the way I wanted, and then I wanted to give it some shading with some darker colors. And I have never swatched these, which is unusual. Usually when I get a new medium, I swatch it immediately and try it out on different papers and stuff. This is some really nice watercolored paper. I'm not sure. I got this from Michaels. It's one of the brands that they have there. I think it's called Master Touch. So here I'm adding some darker colors in the spots where the fur is all drawn in, and around like crevices and curves like the ears and under the arms and places where I think there'll be shadows. And then I take a slightly lighter color and just go around that again and add a little bit more in another color. And I just do that with the third color. I'm putting a lot of color on here. I'm not sure why I'm adding so much color. So now I'm just, working my way into the center with some medium colors. And now I'm just going to take my water brush and sort of blend them all together. And I liked the way this actually came out. And it is bleeding a lot around the edges because I'm adding way too much water. Like, that's way too much water. And way too many layers of color. I should have let it dry in between if I didn't want that to happen. So I'm using a couple oranges and a little bit of a yellowy orange and a yellow for the center of that flower, and I'll use some greens and yellows for the butterflies. So I pulled out 3 different shades of green to do the stem and the leaf and the little grass that's been drawn in at the bottom. And I really kind of add a lot to that grass at the bottom. And I started with the darkest color that I had pulled out next to the bear and right under the bear, and then underneath that the medium color, and then I use the same color I used with the leaves. And then I like to just smooth it all with my water brush, like just to blend it all together and spread it out so that I get a lighter color around the outer edges. And I just love the watercolor effect you get with these brushes. So I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut this out. There are dies that coordinate with this, by the way. So for the next part, I decided that I wanted to add a little bit of background color to that panel with the paper glaze. I love this paper glaze because it doesn't take as long to dry as some of the other pastes and stuff that I use. So I like it a lot because it's very humid here today and it dried nicely. Now I'm using Speckled Egg Distress Oxide, and I am not trying to get this on evenly. Like, I want there to be lots of white showing through because that's kind of what the sky looks like most days around me. So I'm trying to get a little bit of that effect. I like the effect with this speckled egg when you have it kind of uneven so that there are white patches and so forth. And I'm using a little skinny makeup brush to get in between the leaves, and I tested to make sure if I get some of that on the leaves, I can just take one of my microfiber cloths and just buff that ink off that paper glaze because it does resist this particular ink. So I did test that out before I started doing this. So I'm just like really quickly adding some of this speckled egg. I think this is such a pretty color for the blue, and then I'm just blending a little bit more in the larger spots. I like the effect a lot. So I pulled out, what is this? Peeled paint, I think it is. And I'm going to add a little bit of this to the bottom, and I'm not trying to blend the blue and the green together at all, because that's going to be my grass and my sky. So now I'm just using my microfiber cloth to buff the ink off the paper glaze. And I did spritz this with water just to give it some more empty space. And I tried getting some larger letters on there too, but they didn't really show up very well. And that's okay. I'm just dabbing them off. And then I'm going to go ahead and use that, put that bear down. I'm going to use some just art glitter glue. And I'm going to give him, I'm going to just glue him down and adhere him to that paper. I'm not giving him any dimension or anything, mostly because I probably can't get good dimension behind that tiny little stem. And I've been adding less and less foam dimension to my cards lately so that they mail easier. So I'm really adhering him down well. And I love the way he looks below that vine. I think that garden vine stencil from the Crafter's Workshop is just darling. So I'm going to go ahead and layer him on a couple of layers of cardstock. And I elected to do a black and a pretty like teal color. So I'm going to add those to my card base. I actually added the teal to the card base and the black to the card front. And I just cut them 1/8 inch larger than the bottom panel, and then the green one was 1/8 inch larger than the black one, and I just put cardstock layers there because that was one of the things to satisfy the challenge. I'm going to add a few of these crown jewel gems. I love these things, and I love these on-hook tweezers. I probably say this in every video, but those tweezers that I got from Maker Forte with that little hook, those are little pretty tiny gems, and I am easily adding those even with arthritis. And this jewel picker, it's a jewel picker on one end and a craft pick on the other. I love the metal that they chose to make it out of, and it's so easy. And I use the art glitter glue because I have a nice little applicator bottle, and you can purchase those applicator bottles, by the way, in bulk on Amazon. For 20 bucks, I think you can get 20 of those bottles with those nice thin tips. And so, I mean, certainly you don't need 20, but it's nice to actually have them because I use them for things. So this is one of those cut apart sentiment strip sets from this one's from Simon Says Stamp. They have a ton to choose from. Maker Forte has a ton to choose from. They come out with new ones every month. And I just trimmed that down with my brand new trimmer. And I'm just adding some liquid adhesive, and I cut it in half so that I'm not covering up the vines because I love that paper glaze. And that will complete my card. I will put all the links to everything below, and I think it's just a super sweet little card. I can't wait to send it out to someone. So please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. I would love to have you subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, friends. Have a wonderful day.